Oh, yes, and I found out yet again this week that the past can be very hostile. The other day when I found myself standing in my very distant past, in a building where not much had changed really over the years except the, I suppose, the name on the front of it. I wasn't all that surprised by being there accidentally because I had first come here last summer for the first time in about 35 years. So I'd had some time to process this revelation of being in a place where I knew I had been before, but had no idea at that time when I was going there constantly where it actually existed in the physical universe in the city where I'd lived my entire life. Yeah, thank God I had had some time to process that, because otherwise I would have really been freaked out, to be in this lobby of my dad's old office building. All these years later being screamed at by this lady that I didn't bring her the right salad. This was on a Wednesday, and it was not a school day for me. I was not in the classroom teaching students. It was my my day off from teaching composition classes at the university, and I was out as I have been doing on days like that, trying to supplement my income, making delivering food to the hungry people of this town. And just every once in a while you have one of these strange food delivery shifts where you just feel like the universe is I don't know how else to say it, setting you up for something. And this was happening. So it was, I was out there, it was like 12 o'clock, I was delivering lunch, and this thing came up on my food delivery app that there was a bonus going right now. So I could deliver 4 orders without skipping any, and I'd get an extra $12, which I know that doesn't sound like a lot, but I mean, $12 is $12. I normally disregard bonus missions like that, because it's generally the app's way of making you make decisions that really are not in your best interest, getting you to drive all over town, chasing this bonus. And yeah, if you deliver 3 orders and you do all this work over the course of about an hour and a half, and you're really, really close to getting that 4th order, and thus like that $12 extra, but the order is stretched all the way across town. You pick it up from one place and you drive it like 30 minutes out to the country. Yeah, you may get like $5 for that order and like $12 on top of that, but now you're out in the middle of the freaking country and there's no restaurants around, so you really have to drive all the way back to the hot spots, right, to resume delivering. So I generally disregard them, but something was happening on this shift that was different than any other day where there was that kind of a mission, and that I was getting all these orders that were really close together. I would pick up the restaurant, and then from the food from the restaurant, and then I would just deliver it like a couple blocks away, and that would be money. So I did this 1, 2, 3 times, and And it was just one of those strange things where on top of chasing this bonus and getting all of this luck of having these orders that were all in close proximity to their restaurants, strange coincidences and synchronicities were happening. So I was driving downtown, for instance, and I passed my friend Dave, and Dave was just walking around downtown. He works for a production company down there, and he had just been asked to walk around downtown and just take some photos and take some videos of just being out in the city. So I passed him, and I slowed down next to him and got out and talked to him for a few minutes. So, and that's not really that much of a coincidence to run into Dave downtown, because it is, after all, where he works. And this being the middle of a work day, that would make sense. But then I got another order. I had to go to this Indian restaurant and pick it up and deliver it to a mutual friend of ours, Michelle. So I thought that was kind of weird. I saw Dave, and then I saw our friend Michelle, right? And yeah, just that was a synchronicity. I don't know how else you could call it that, or a coincidence, whatever, if you're not into the whole metaphysical thing, I guess. I don't know. But what tied it all together, what was really, really strange, is that after just before I had seen Dave downtown, I delivered an order to my dad's old building. This is the one where he worked in until he retired about 10 years ago. And I don't go to this building that often, but it's not that much of a coincidence that I would get an order that would go to my dad's old office building, because it's a very big building. It's the biggest building in downtown. It's about 42 levels, I believe, 42 stories. And yeah, he worked here from I would say about 1991, right before we moved. My family moved here to 2014 or 15 when he retired. And it was always kind of a joke, because it's a big building downtown, and it's got these like 4 big gigantic balls on top of it. So my sisters and I, we would always refer to it, of course not with my dad present, because he would get mad at us, but we would call it the building with balls, right? The building with balls, and the South's heaviest corner and all that. So my dad worked there. He retired from Regions Bank, and before that he had worked for the bank that Regions had bought up, AmSouth. So he had worked for AmSouth my entire life until it got absorbed by Regions about something like 25 years ago or whatever. So I hadn't been to my dad's old office building downtown in quite a while. But when I was a kid, and all the way up until, I was a working adult having a career as a teacher, I would go see him all the time, and we would have lunch in the food court in this, kind of like an indoor shopping mall that would connect his building with another building that AmSouth also owned, and then later Regions, called the Harbor Plaza. And yeah, there was just this really nice like interior space, this food court. And of course, now going into it all these years later, it's like one of these great instances of how just the internet has ruined the lunch hour, or I don't know what it's done, but it's just like, it's downtown, it's lunchtime on a Wednesday, and you walk into this place that used to be a very busy, bustling food court. The food court's closed down. There's like 2 people in this entire mall that I'm walking into, just sitting at these sad tables, just eating their salads and looking at their phones. And it's just, I just think like, 25 years ago, I would come and I would have lunch with my dad. We would go into like the Parisians there and like look around. I would get my hair cut. There was like a barber shop in there. There was like a ticket master where you could buy like concert tickets, things like that. And yeah, it was just very sad walking into this building, but I was very familiar. I had a great history with this building going back over 30 years now, I suppose. And so yeah, I took this person's food up to them. They were on the 17th floor. So I delivered to them, and then I left the building very quickly because I was double parked downtown, but it didn't really matter because there wasn't anybody else really downtown. I just, parked really quickly at the quickest parking place I saw. And I was leaving downtown and I ran into Dave, and then I went and picked up an order, and I ran into Michelle. And then I get this. So I have 3 orders now under my belt, and all of these orders have taken me about 40 minutes collectively to do because they're all really close to each other. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm actually going to get the bonus. That's fantastic. And I've already, on top of that, made about $50. This is a pretty good, haul, right? And of course, I was aware of the fact that I need to be wary here, because this is when the app starts making you work against yourself, because I just had this feeling that they were now going to throw me an order. Now that I had gotten 3 orders consecutively and I could not skip the 4th one if I wanted to get that bonus, I knew they were going to throw me something. And then I got it. And it was kind of like that. The restaurant was not close to the delivery, the person I had to deliver it to, but it wasn't that bad. And it was for about $6. So, the only thing that I really hated about the order is that it was from a restaurant that I've sworn off I would never go to. The Jack's Family Restaurant. These restaurants that are like, think of Jack in the Box, which is just about like the worst restaurant you could possibly eat at. We don't have them here in the Southeast. But we do have a Jack's, and Jack's is like a tier I've had from Jack in the Box on the West Coast. Jack's is like a tier below a Jack in the Box. Like, it's really bad food. Maybe it's changed in the 25 years or so since I've had it, but they used to have Jack's all over Alabama, but they closed a lot of them in the late 90s because people kept getting food poisoning. And they got this really bad reputation, kind of around the same time as Jack in the Box. Didn't that same thing happen to Jack in the Box? I think so. So I get this order, and I got to go to Jack's in Homewood. I'm like, oh my God, whatever. But at the same time, it's like, okay, I take this order from Jack's in Homewood, and I take it over to this place in Avondale. It's about a 12-mile delivery distance. And I deliver that, and I get $12 on top of that. So I don't think about it as, $6. I think about it as, $18, right? And it's a beautiful day, and I've got some music going. I'm like, why not? Well, I'll do this, whatever. So I go to Jack's, I pick it up, and I'm driving. I get the GPS coordinates, and I notice very quickly that it's taking me, and I at that point, just, what in the world is going on right now? This is insane. So it's taking me to Avondale, where just a few months ago, last summer, I had delivered to this building that it was now taking me to. And this building back last summer was not something that I had really thought much of until I walked into it. It was this place right next to the O'Neill Steel Factory. And just this building that was very 60s or probably 70s. It just had that typical brutalist look to it, like this beige concrete, this inverted entrance that you walked into these glass doors. And last summer I had this craziest feeling. I wasn't even expecting it, and I didn't really even feel it until as soon as I walked into those doors, and I was just standing in the middle of this atrium full of these, like, trees, these plants, this skylight. It was like 3 floors. I saw this glass elevator kind of going up, and I had this weirdest feeling that I had been in this building before, and I couldn't place it. Like, when would I have ever been in this building here in, like, Avondale? And the name on the building said, like, UAB. It was like a UAB, University of Alabama at Birmingham medical research center of some kind. And I delivered the food last summer to the person in there, and then just sat in this atrium for a few minutes trying to figure out, like, why I was feeling this way. And then suddenly it just overwhelmed me, and it came to me, and I got in the car and I called my dad, and I was like, where was that ops center that you worked with for AmSouth back in the 1980s? Like around 1985, 86 or so, when we were still living out in the country, you would commute here every day into the city. Was it in Avondale? And he's like, yeah, it was in Avondale. And I gave him the exact address. He's like, yeah, that's it. That's the old ops center. I was like floored by that last summer, right? This was the building that I had gone to see my dad in, where I was first beginning to really form memories, right? Back in the mid 80s. My mom would take me into town to like go see my dad. And we would go into this vague place that just had this huge atrium. I thought it looked like the mall or something like that. Of course, at that time, I was really just beginning to understand what a mall was. And it was just this bizarre interior space where the things that were normally outside were now inside, right? And I always had this in my mind, but never had thought to ask my dad where that particular building was, so that now that I'm an adult, I can maybe go check it out and see where it is. It just occupied this abstract, non-physical location in my mind that as an adult, sometimes you just don't think about that. You don't think about these places that like you first came into your memory just as you were forming memories still exist somewhere in the world. You just don't think about going to really visit them or see them, or maybe you really know them. Like, you know, the first time you go to Disney World, right? The first time I went to Disney World was when I was 6 years old, right? And then when I went several years later and I was like a little bit more conscious of what was going on, you know, suddenly you start to like look at things like, oh my gosh, I recognize that thing, right? So that was what was going on. It was just this overwhelming feeling that I had last summer and that I couldn't believe I was in. So now, several months later, I was on my way to this same building, and I just was at this, like, having a hard time processing this coincidence that I had just delivered to my dad's old building where he worked until he retired. And now I was finding myself going to his old building, right, that he had worked before that, the AmSouth Ops Center over there in Avondale, right? So I was so excited to be going to this building again because the last time I was there, I hadn't realized where I was until I was in my car and called him. So I was excited to go into this room, into this building, into the atrium and start taking pictures and sending them back to my dad, right? And I parked and I walked into this atrium, and as soon as I was like beginning to just take it in and just bask in those memories that I was now well aware of that I was walking into, I just suddenly heard this like woman yelling at me. She's like, that's not the right thing. That's not the right thing. And I turned, and like this woman, yeah, sure enough, was like standing there, and she was with a friend of hers. And she was looking in my hand at this bag, and I said, is there a problem? And she's like, you're with Grubhub, right? I said, yes, ma'am, I am. Are you, I said her name. I think her name was Cynthia or whatever, which may be her real name. I don't know. I can't remember. But she says like, yeah, I'm Cynthia. That's my order, right? And I said, yes, ma'am. And she says like, that's not my order. And I looked down at it. It's like, well, it says it's like, no, but you're supposed to bring me 2 salads. Me and my friend here, we want 2 salads. And I said to her, it's like, are these not 2 salads? You know, because, you know, Jack's, the restaurant, gave me this plastic bag, and for all I know, they had 2 salads in it. They said it was for her. And she's like, no, those are not salads. I know immediately. And I was like, well, how do you know? And she says, well, they're supposed to be in these 2 big plastic boxes. And I said, well, ma'am, I really apologize. You know, I don't know what a salad from Jack's looks like. I apologize. And she's like, oh my God. And she just starts getting really frustrated, and she's almost like on the brink of tears, and her friend is trying to calm her down. And she's just like, I'm just hungry. I've been waiting here for an hour for those salads to arrive. I cannot believe that you brought me the wrong order. And I said, ma'am, it took me a few minutes to convince her that it really wasn't my fault, because really, as the driver, you're not supposed to like open somebody's bag and actually look into it and like open their food or anything. You're not supposed to do that. You know, you're just supposed to more or less take the restaurant's word for it, that if it has the customer's name on it, that it is the right order. And me, as I said, not having been to that restaurant in almost 30 years, I have no idea what a Jack's salad looks like. I mean, I would assume just I get this image of just like leafy greens and razor blades. That's what a Jack's salad, seems like it would look like to me, So she's she's pitching a fit there in the lobby of this of my dad's old building from the 1980s. And all I have to do right now, the only responsibility I have is just to hand the food over to her and be on my way. But she refuses the food. She won't take it from me. And she's like, I don't even want it now. I want to call Jack's. And I said, well, ma'am, you can't really call the restaurant. It's like, since you went through a third party, you have to call the app. And she's like, I don't know how to do that. I don't know how to operate this thing. And, this happens from time to time. It happens, right? But it's really just not my problem at the same time, which is one of the things that I love about food delivery, right? If the restaurant gives them the wrong order, as long as you do your part, you're not really responsible for it. So, I just have to hand her the order. Even if she doesn't take it, I can just set it down and then leave, and that's it. And I click delivered, and I get the $12, and everything that happens after there is between her, the food delivery company, and Jesus, I guess. So I don't have to do that. So I click accept or delivered, and then it says that I need to get a code from her, and I'm like, oh god, shit. At that point. So I realize at that point that I cannot leave. I cannot indeed give her the food, because every once in a while, right, the food delivery company forces you to interact with the customer, to actually get a code from them to verify that you have indeed delivered it to the right person. It doesn't happen on every order. And I genuinely, after several years, don't know how this works. If the customer opts in to giving you the code, or if the code just randomly generates, because many customers that I've been held up on many orders because I haven't been able to contact the customer to get the PIN, and I have to wait there for 10 minutes while the timer goes down to allow me to move on to my next order. So I guess I could have waited there for 10 minutes, but nevertheless, I'm here and this woman's just, ranting and raving. And so I asked her if I could help her. Solve this problem, because she can't figure out how to use the app and get in touch with customer service. So she says, yeah, you can do whatever you want. Try it out. And she's just beside herself right now. Her head is in her hands and she's just sobbing because she's so hungry and she doesn't really care about the money right now. So, but I do. So I take the phone from her and I'm looking through her app, and I see the code right there. And, this is just one of those moments where I hit this point here, right? And I was like, I could walk away right now. I've got this code. I could take this code from her phone, put it in my phone, and be on her way, and let her prayers take care of the problem, I suppose. But and then I think, at that point, maybe it was just this flash of having a conscience. And I think about that building, and I think about all of the things that I probably first began to get a grip on in this building that my dad once worked in, that my mom would take me and my sisters into the city or on the edge of the city, I suppose, and go to the ops center and see my dad. And this was my first acknowledgement, my first coming to experience the office, right? The workplace. And I would go in there and I would see my dad, and he would be behind his desk and he would be in a suit, and he would have his own office, but then he would walk us out into the shared workspace. And I always thought that these little people were working in these nice little cozy nooks, right? Like I would see in that cartoon version that was always on the Disney Channel of The Hobbit. They would just be in like these cozy little nooks that I would later come to find out are cubicles, which freak me out today. But, and just these people walking around. And I would think about the idea that this was the building that I was standing in where I probably first saw people shaking hands and adults being nice to each other, and these values that I suppose over the years my dad instilled in me of, being confident and being helpful to other people and serving them and doing right by them so that perhaps they would do right by you. And all of these values that I once learned in this building, right, about 40 years ago, a little less than that, I am now here in the same place now as a 42-year-old man. And I feel like something has come full circle at this point right now. So I'm staring at this woman's phone and I see that I could just steal this code that I see right there in front of me and put it on my phone and be on my way. But something just stops me. Something just stops me, right? And I say, I look at her and I say, ma'am, I tell you what I'm going to do. I tell you what I'll do. You can't, for whatever reason, contact customer service and get them to refund you on your end of the app. But I can do that. And so what I do is I get my phone out and I do not mark the order as delivered. I can do that, but I'm afraid at that point that if I do that, and then I call customer service, that they will no longer be able to help me because I have delivered the order, and so everything is okay on their end, right? So rather than, at that point, I know that if I don't do this, then I will most likely run the gamut. I will run the risk of not getting the money for this delivery because they will mark it as canceled, and also therefore voiding my bonus, right? And so against everything, thinking about everything, all the common courtesies that I've learned from this building, from my youth, I now make the decision to void everything, just run that risk and call customer service without marking the order delivered. So I call customer service and they cancel the order, but then they have to call the lady. So I say to her, like, they hang up. I hang up with them and I say, well, now they're going to call you just to verify that you indeed need to cancel the order. And so I hang up with them, and then she gets a call on her phone and she's just like, hello. And she's like kind of barely beginning to compose herself. And she tells them everything that she just told me, how she's pitches a fit about not being able to get the right salad, about how she just spent $22 on this order and she had to wait for an hour for it to get to her. And then it was the wrong order. And then you just heard this woman who's probably in India calm her down. She says, yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I apologize. What we will do is we will refund your money, and we will also give you an extra $15 off of your next order. And I'm hearing all this. And at the same time, what's happening to me is I get a bing on my phone and I look down and it's the app. And the food delivery says, like, your order for Cynthia has now been canceled. Right. And I look on it and I still get a little bit of money. I get $5, right, which is $5 of the $6 I was promised for the order, but I do not get the bonus. So I just gave away the bonus, right? And meanwhile, I'm hearing this woman she gets it, and she, should be at that point perhaps grateful a little bit that she's getting not only her refund back, but all this extra money. But instead of hearing her say that, she just says to her friend, like, it's going to take me 22 days to get that money back on my card. And she just like hangs up the phone in anger with India. And she looks at her friend and she looks at me and she's like, I can't believe this is happening today. Now, what am I supposed to do? I don't have food. I don't have money. Right. And what can I say at that point? I don't know if this is a lesson I learned, but I'm bitter. That's a little bit irritating. And I look at her and I was like, well, look on the bright side. At least you got your $15 off of your next order. And she's like, but that doesn't help me right now because I'm hungry. And I said, well, ma'am, I really apologize. I mean, you know, I lost money on this too. And so at that point, what I do is I take out my phone, I go over to the atrium, I look up in the big bright skylight, I take a quick picture, and then I just like leave with her behind me. And I just hear her saying like, well, thank you. And she's real pissed at me for some reason. She's real mad. I guess because maybe at that point I couldn't really hold in my my rage. I think she sensed the fact at that point that I was a little angry as I stormed out of the building where I had learned to control it. I guess I haven't really learned that much in all these years, I suppose. Maybe not. I don't know. From Birmingham, Alabama. This is the Midnight Citizen Show. Welcome in. As always, my opening bit there went way too long. What are we, 30 minutes into the show now? Oh my God. I hope it was worth it. I don't know. It's worth it to me, I suppose. Yeah. All that, exactly, the other day. I was so excited to send my dad pictures. Being in his old building. I don't even think I've done that yet. Just this atrium. It looks exactly the same, seriously. The only thing that's changed is that the AmSouth logo is no longer on the building. But yeah, this interior world with all these trees and air-conditioned, just that very popular look from the 1980s, I suppose. Yeah, all that's to say is I got to get a new job, I think. As it's now winding down on March here, I'm very aware of the fact that I won't have a job like this time next month. This is kind of scary. So I'm in contract employee. I'm an adjunct instructor. Yeah, at the university, the same university that owns that building now where my dad once worked. And I have a job. I have classes in the fall, but nothing before then. As they give all their summer classes, they give them to the full-time faculty. So I'm looking for something else right now. I've spent the day, oh my God, just doing that thing, right? Just updating your resume, looking on LinkedIn, trying to sort out the scams from the actual real jobs, and not really having much luck. I don't know. I feel like I'm just getting like too old for this, I think. Yeah. I'm just looking at jobs right now on LinkedIn. There's always this varsity tutors company. They always need English tutors, which is basically just like sign up with us and then you get to pitch yourself to people all over the country. So I'm already signed up with several tutoring services that do that, but they make it sound like it's an actual job. It's not. It's just, you're signing up for with a company that will perhaps connect you with parents who need tutors for their children. And then they take about a 40% cut of your labor. So yeah, I'm not interested in that, right? It's a job. English teachers wanted for Uline in Pleasant Prairie, Wisconsin. Do I want to move to Wisconsin right now? Yeah, it's an on-site job, so I'd have to move to Wisconsin. I don't know where Pleasant Prairie is, but yeah, the position responsibilities: write, edit, and publish executive summaries for company leadership, collaborate with teams to capture and communicate their stories. And I don't know why they need a teacher for this. It sounds like they just need somebody who can write, I guess, maybe. But a bachelor's degree, I have a bachelor's degree. We'll do just fine. The benefits are that you get an on-site cafe and a first-class fitness center. Over 4 miles of beautifully maintained walking trails. This is a family-owned company, North America's leading distributor of shipping, industrial, and packaging materials, with over 9,000 employees, over 13 locations. Yeah, this is the make or break. This is what breaks the deal. Uline is a drug-free workplace. Oh my gosh, no. No. If I'm going to work someplace, I need to be able to bring my drugs. Right? That's very important. Hiring immediately, entry-level English teacher in Chicago. Moved to Chicago. My wife used to live in Chicago. She's got some roots there, I suppose. Do you want to teach English abroad and explore Asia while developing... Wait, I thought this was like in Chicago. EF English First offers an exciting chance to start your career as an English teacher with numerous paths for growth and advancement. See, this is the thing I was going to do when I was in school years ago getting my MED, my master's in education, is that I was planning on, once I graduated, actually teaching abroad, like going to Japan or China, something like that. That's really why I actually went into school in the first place, because I wanted to do something like that. And then I met my wife. The plans kind of changed from there. Not to say that I mean, just like I was, I don't know. I was like in my mid-20s. I thought that's what I wanted to do. And by that point, it was like, it's very unlikely that I will ever meet a girl that will actually want to keep me around for the long term. So, and and that's how it always happens, right? It's like as soon as you start like thinking of that and like making that a goal in your life, it happens. That just happens with just about everything. You know, that secret, man, that power of attraction thing is it's like total bullshit. It really is. my thing is like the things that you really want, completely forget about them, put them off, focus on other things. And then when you don't need them anymore, they'll suddenly appear in your life. Shouldn't say like not need, when you are no longer really thinking about them as much, I suppose, right? Here's a promising sounding job, the online adjunct instructor pool. Missouri, United States. Columbia College Online Education is accepting applications for adjunct instructors to meet our changing needs. Qualified applicants will be contacted if an opening in their respective fields becomes available. So basically just like give us an application, we'll call you if we need you. I mean, that's very standard these days. Minimum qualifications to teach undergraduate courses include a master's degree in the related field. Yeah. So I think there's some stuff on here. I don't know, man. It's like I've been on LinkedIn for years. I still don't understand how it works. Right. It stresses me out to be on here. And, the easy part is really making out your resume. But then when you get on LinkedIn and you find out that there's all these jobs and they have all these like special qualifications that you may have or you may not have, but you end up like tweaking your resume to fit every single individual job. You don't just have like a standard resume, and it becomes just this thing where you're like second doubting yourself. Like, I feel like at this point, I've been working in education for like a number of years. For over a decade now, I've been doing this in various capacities. And I feel like pretty good about myself right now in terms of like a professional. Like, I have a lot of experience under my belt. And in addition to teaching and classroom instruction, I also have like a lot of experience that I've gotten, working for nonprofits, right? Just grant writing and program development. And I feel pretty confident in myself right now. But you get onto LinkedIn and like Indeed and everything, and you just feel like you've just been born or something. Like, what is all this? And of course, the way that jobs change, like, the thing is, you find out like companies out there really don't know what they're doing. Like, what they're doing is especially if you're trying to work in the private sector, they're so obsessed with whatever the latest buzzword is. Like, for so long, everybody was asking for like VR experience, or like, something in the VR space, and now everything is in the AI space. And it's just like, they're asking this like huge pool of candidates to essentially just like pivot with them, and it becomes very frustrating. And really, the only thing to do is just to I don't want to say lie, but just be like, yes, I'm easily adaptable to changing technologies. I guess. So I hope you're all doing well this week. Some things to talk about. I suppose I should catch you up on. Last week on last week's podcast, I talked about the idea of possibly pivoting in this ever-changing world to finally changing the name to perhaps rebranding, right? This here show, this podcast that I've been doing now for 15 years. As I said, off and on, right? Taking about 3 years off between 2017 and 2020. And just thinking about the idea that, when I first started doing the show, I was, in my 20s, and I was getting my master's in education at the time, and I was not married as I am now, and creating the show just as a hobby, as it still remains, but having a very different idea in mind for what it is. And I think in a lot of ways I've preserved that idea. I mean, it's a night radio show. I still do it mostly at night. But over the years, it's just evolved to like whenever I need to do the show. But I've gotten myself like right now into the ability to just come in here usually on Friday nights, record it, and then get it out on Saturdays. And I've found that schedule works out pretty well. But really also just thinking about the way that my personality is not the same as what the show actually sounds like, right? And I did get some nice comments over the week, like, from Anne, for instance, the Midnight Citizen, she, likes the show. I felt like it was like just a brooding intensity that the show made it sound like. And I don't really feel like, I guess sometimes I do brood on this show, right? But, I just realized that show name just doesn't exactly still match, I suppose, what I feel like the show is, what it's become. And after 15 years, also, you just kind of want a bit of a change, right? Just to change it up a little bit. And so I do feel like I am probably going to change the name for the show, not this week, not next week, but as I approach the 300th episode of the Midnight Citizen, I think I will probably be working toward that goal. Maybe working toward doing 300 episodes of this show, hitting that mark. and then starting over, right, with something new. So that'll be a while from now, because I do a show every week. So I don't know, 16 weeks from now, well, that'll probably be, I suppose, like maybe September, something like that, when that happens. I suppose. But anyway. But yeah, along with that, some other things, some other changes that are happening right now. So this spring, this winter and the spring, what I've really been enjoying is I've really been enjoying vlogging. So I've been doing vlogs and publishing them every Tuesday, Monday at first, and then the schedule kind of went to Tuesday. And I enjoyed that. What I was doing is I was just the schedule allowed for it. I would get in my car, usually get in my car and just record myself driving around, making food deliveries, going to interesting places that I thought were interesting anyway. And also just like hanging around the house and just doing like an extra video component to ostensibly support the podcast. Because I know that not everybody's going to want to sit down and just like listen to a show. Sometimes you want to watch it as well. And even though I do very often record video of me doing the show, as I am right now, and I, post it on YouTube. I post both the audio on YouTube as well as the video generally. If I'm in the studio, I'll record the show on video. I thought it was kind of cool just to actually have like an extra video component, and it was a lot of fun for 10 weeks that I did that. Beginning in early January and going all the way back to last week. It really did feel like making a movie like every week, and going out and filming something and finding some kind of interesting narratives and themes to tie them all together, and then coming into the office here and then like just editing all that video together. And I really enjoyed doing that. And the thing is like, I think like I have to quit that for now. Okay. So if you've been enjoying the vlogs, if you've been enjoying those, as some of you have been, it's not this thing where it's like, I haven't gotten that much engagement, therefore I'm just not interested in doing it anymore. It's really something that I was not doing so much for the engagement, although it was like really nice to have people comment on it. It's just one of these things where it was something that I was doing to promote the podcast, but it was taking way more time, right, than the podcast took. So, I could make that work for a while, but it got to this point where like last weekend and now coming up now where, I need to find a new job and actually, my schedule is going to be, any free time I have, my schedule is really going to be consumed with that right now, because I'm getting to that point now where I am going to be totally jobless. Like my side hustles will become my hustles, right? Except for like some summer camps that I'm lined up to teach in the summer. As I always am. So, yeah, it's going to be that's what I need to put my focus into right now. It's just, as much as I enjoy doing the vlogs, I do have to quit them for now until I can get back on a schedule that allows me to do it. But yeah, the good news is though, I am still for now, like I mean, for a long time to come, I think, right? Even though I know I often jinx myself by saying that, I am going to continue to do podcasts, right, and release them every Saturday night. And I've got some plans coming up. I was into it for a while where I was doing some live shows. I was actually doing live shows on Saturday nights and, with video and on YouTube, so people could tune in and watch and I could comment back and forth with them. I was doing that for a while. And it was so much fun. It was a lot of, it was a little stressful, I'll be honest with you, just to be able to, because like generally when I do this show, as I've been doing it tonight, I don't stop. I don't edit unless there's some kind of a technical problem that happens. I do the show totally live. I press record and then I talk and then I'm done. And then on Saturday morning, I may compress the audio a little bit, but basically you're hearing everything in real time, right? Just like a big monologue from beginning to end, right? From soup to nuts. And for a while I was like inviting people into the studio here to see me do that. Even though it was a little bit of pressure, because it did feel like at that point I was on stage for people, right? But, And yeah, if like something would go wrong, like if for whatever reason my music was over mixing and people couldn't hear my voice, it was embarrassing. But it was also one of those things that everybody was pretty generally forgiving of, and just be like, okay, I'll wait until you can get this right, and then I'll come back, right? So, but yeah, in the future, I think I'm going to be doing some more live shows, so stick around for that. And I'm also planning on probably doing a little bit more writing here now that the summer's coming up, and depending on how things go with the job hunt, I published an article this week on the Substack over at mikesbonfire.substack.com. I should probably change that name as well. I don't know. I might as well just rebrand all of it. Why not? Who cares? You know, but yeah, this week I published an article over there at the Substack. I will be honest with you, I was a little bit disappointed, but I also knew that Substack is just like any other social media platform out there. You struggle to get people to pay any attention to anything that you do on there. And it took me 2 weeks to write this article that I just published over there this week. And as I was writing it, I was like, it's going to be hard. This is going to be a hard sell to get people to sit down and read this thing. But I published it nevertheless, and I had a great time writing it. And the only time I was really a little depressed about it that nobody was going to read it is when I wasn't actually writing it, right? And that's sort of the thing. That's the thing that keeps this show going, that keeps a lot of the things that I do going, is just having this freedom, this ability, right, to sit down and just like and make things and like do podcasts and write stuff and do vlogs, even though I know that nobody's really gonna, you know, pay attention to them, although I do have a very small but dedicated audience, right, that does support me, and I'm thankful for that very much, right. It's very difficult, right, to reach a wide audience, and you know, but the thing is like you just have to have like almost this like monastic discipline, right, just to sit down and know that you're doing something. And you're probably kicking it off the side of the mountain, ultimately, right? You're probably throwing it into the big void of the ocean, right? But still having it out there, and also keep doing something, and maybe something will stick, right? So, like a good example is that on Substack, a few weeks ago, I published a note on there that got a lot of traction. Like it got something like almost 400 people like commented on it, restacked it, liked it. And that was the most engagement I had ever had on any kind of social media platform. And even though it was ultimately like a post that was promoting Substack and how great it was, and not really about people weren't really engaging with it because of anything that I was doing. They weren't really, it wasn't a note that was, you know, promoting my podcast or my writing or my vlogging or anything like that. It was, so it was something that was promoting the platform itself, which is what the platform does, right? If you're on there, if you're a member of Substack and you're not attracting paid subscribers, as I don't charge people for the things that I do, you're not making any money for them, and you're sort of like a freeloader. You're there on Substack, and you're drinking their coffee and using their web hosting and all that stuff. You're not bringing in any real value to this platform. So if you write a note and you say something nice about their platform, obviously that's when they're going to start promoting you. Okay, so that's a little game you can play on Substack. But even after that engagement I got, I didn't continue to play. I see a lot of people on Substack doing that, like promoting Substack, saying how great it is or whatever, and getting all of these views. But it's ultimately just like kind of shallow, right? It's a kind of shallow thing to do, because people are liking what you're saying, but they're not liking anything that you're really doing. So, right. So yeah. And there's a lot of that, fatigue and that kind of negative energy about the platform going on. But, you know, I don't know. That's just what it is. That's the world we kind of live in, right? And you just got to kind of, at the end of the day, the only time I really get depressed about it is when I'm actually not, not doing something, not making something to put on there, right? You know, just, you're not really sad until you kind of stop moving, right? So you just gotta kind of keep moving. And yeah, when you stop, just learn to be happy that you did something, that you put something out there that, I don't know, maybe 200 years from now, somebody will be walking along the beach and they'll see your little bottle roll up onto it, and they'll create a whole new religion based on you. I don't know. It's like the Bill and Ted theory, right? So I'm going to check this out here. So kind of exciting this week that the new trailer for this One Battle After Another came out, was finally released. Yeah, last week they dropped this thing. Warner Brothers, the movie studio, dropped this trailer on YouTube, what we thought was the trailer for One Battle After Another, but it turned out to just be the trailer for the trailer. The trailer just said drops next week, right? Official trailer, One Battle After Another. So yeah, and the reason I'm excited about this, I've talked about this in recent weeks, is that this is the new movie from writer-director Paul Thomas Anderson, who I've always been a fan of his. Some of his movies land better than others, but just one of the best movies of the 90s, I feel, is Boogie Nights. And he did that movie. It's a movie about the porn industry in the 70s and 80s, but is surprisingly tender and sweet and really well made and just so much fun and so funny. And There Will Be Blood, which is a great historical epic about oil barons, right, in the West in the 1900s. And Paul Thomas Anderson is, of course, the only filmmaker who has brought a book by the reclusive American author Thomas Pynchon, right, to the screen. So he made the movie Inherent Vice in 2014 about the sort of psychedelic detective back in the late 60s, early 70s, who's hunting down like these shadowy government organizations, and it's very paranoia and conspiracy laced, that movie. And Thomas Pynchon is, of course, like, it has become one of my favorite authors, and I've read just about everything he's ever done except like his big book Gravity's Rainbow. I've still yet to get through that book, and I'm perpetually working my way through it. Got it behind me here on the bookshelf. But one book of his that I have read that and they are saying that One Battle After Another is supposed to be based on it, is Vineland, his 1990 novel that was written. It was his follow-up to Gravity's Rainbow that came out in 1990. So it took him 17 years to publish this novel. And yeah, so they finally dropped the trailer for this movie next week. It's not called Vineland. It's called One Battle After Another. It's weird. It's unlike anything that Paul Thomas Anderson has ever done before. It's like a big, something like $150 million movie that Warner Brothers got made. I think that's the biggest budget he's ever worked with before. And of course, it's DiCaprio, who's a big star. It's going to be an IMAX, and it's going to come out in August. It's going to be like a big summer kind of tentpole movie. So they finally released the trailer for this week. And so I think people who've been speculating for now, and like early news reports who say that it is going to be Vineland, I think we can kind of finally begin to sort of make our assumptions about just how much like Thomas Pynchon's 1990 book it's going to be like. So I'll play the trailer. Here's the trailer for One Battle After Another. here. And go back a little bit. It's like DiCaprio's walking through a grocery store and he's picking up a payphone. He's dressed like a bum.
Rise and shine.
Pat an eyelash.
Good morning.
There are no hands on the clock.
Why?
Because they're not needed.
What time is it?
You know, I don't remember that part. All right, let's just not nitpick over the passwords. This is Bob Ferguson. I was a part of the French 75.
Bitch, I felt like Tony Montana!
Steve Lockjaw just attacked my home, and I cannot remember, for the life of my only child, the answer to your question.
Maybe you should have studied the rebellion text a little harder.
I need to find my daughter.
Well, then call us back when you have the time.
You just...
Oh, man. Writer-director Paul Thomas Anderson.
You know, you are so unsuitable for my daughter. My child comes from a whole line of revolutionaries. And you look so lost. What are you gonna do about this baby?
You know what freedom is?
What?
No fear. Go.
Benicio del Toro.
Not one thing, it's another. Find that to be true.
I need you, brother. Sensei, please.
Courage, Bob. Courage.
That's it. Courage. Yeah. Yes. Thank you. Hey, thank you, Sensei. Thank you, Sensei. Thank you. God damn it! Viva la revolution!
So, shot in VistaVision. Ooh. So, yeah, I like the trailer a lot. My friend was texting me with it yesterday. He saw it before me, and wasn't really all that like impressed by it. He just said like if he's a big fan of the director, and he said if this did not have Paul Thomas Anderson's name on it, I really don't know if I would care. And that's totally valid, because it this is, as I said, like really completely unlike anything that that director has ever done before, and the fact that it is a big budget movie. There's a lot of guns in it. There's big epic vistas, even though he's done that before. But it's also a modern day movie. I don't think Paul Thomas Anderson has made a movie that's set in the modern day since Punch Drunk Love, the Adam Sandler movie he made back in 2002 or so. And but I think looking through it, it's got like his a lot of signature humor there, like just with the voice on the payphone, like taunting him to give him the right password. But yeah, it's the thing about it is like this may be like a hard sell, I think, for big audiences. I really don't know if like the studio is going to recoup their money on this, because people are already not really going to movies, and maybe this movie will come out the same weekend as like Barbie 2 and it'll get that boost or whatever. I don't know, but yeah, like I think it's DiCaprio, which he's a big draw. I think he's like, along with like maybe Brad Pitt and Tom Cruise, like the last people who are really around that you go see a movie just because they're in it. It's hard to sell people on movies these days based on who is in them. Really, it's more about like, what is the franchise, what's it a sequel to, right? But people go see movies, I think, based on Leonardo DiCaprio, right? Who the first thing he was ever in was, I think, like what, Growing Pains or something, from like the early 90s. But yeah, he's he looks like he's like a homeless man or like a bum, or I think he's in disguise or something. And it does definitely look like it. It has elements of Vineland, right? So it's been a while since I have, I've read that book. It's been probably 6 or 7 years since I've read Vineland. I'll probably read it again before the movie comes out. Maybe depends on what my job is, but it's the book, as I remember it, is like this very Thomas Pynchon material. It deals with underground organizations working against the government. The government also has underground organizations working against them. And yeah, the movie is about this. It looks like it's about this like group of modern day radicals, a la, I suppose, the Weather Underground. And reminds me in a lot of ways, there was like a Philip Roth book called American Pastoral, which is about this man who sort of goes into the Weather Underground in the 60s to hunt for his daughter who's become radicalized. And so that very much is looks like what One Battle After Another is going to be about. And that's what the book is about also, is about this character named Zoid Wheeler, who looks like that's like DiCaprio's doppelganger in this movie, right? Zoid Wheeler. But I think he said in the trailer his name is Bob Ferguson. So maybe that was like I don't know. I don't know if they've changed the names or what, but yeah, he's apparently going into the movement to find his daughter, right? And I think that's very evident of what's going on, and that's the plot of Vineland, right? Now, as I remember in Vineland, there's scenes of Godzilla running amok in Tokyo and things like that. So I don't know if that's going to be in this movie, but but it looks like it's got the same exact elements. Now, the one big difference is that Vineland, as I said, was written in 1990. The book, however, takes place in 1984, and that's one key thing I remember about the book, is that it starts off in 1984, and Zoid Wheeler, the opening scene of the book, as I recall, is this ex-hippie who's now living in Northern California, near the Muir Woods, the same exact place where they in 1984 they had just wrapped filming on Return of the Jedi a little bit earlier. And so it was this, I just remember that very specific reference in the book, right? And there's also a scene in the book where they go to the Sherman Oaks Galleria, right? Which is obviously really big in 1984 because that's where they had filmed, they were filming a ton of movies in that place, like Fast Times at Ridgemont High and I think Commando with Arnold Schwarzenegger. So but yeah, the book mainly takes place in California, but Zoid Wheeler in the opening is this ex-hippie, and I think in order to get money, he throws himself through the window storefronts of local businesses to get the insurance money or something, or to I guess to sue them. So I remember that, but he does go into this underground radical movement to find his wife Frenesi and their daughter, and they're being stalked by this military special forces guy. I think his name is Brock Vaughn, but that looks like who Sean Penn's playing in the movie, and I can't remember who Benicio del Toro is in it. He was also in Inherent Vice, and he plays it looks like Benicio del Toro is sort of playing the same kind of role that he played in Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. He's like this helper, this companion, or sort of alter ego to the main character who's going through all these things, and is he real or is he not real? That's the vibe I get from Del Toro. So anyway, but yeah, I think it'll be a cool movie. I think it will be. It's you can't really tell a lot from the trailer, but I don't think you're supposed to tell a lot from the trailer. Yeah, there's people that are going along what looks like a border fence, and it looks like DiCaprio is there's a scene where he and his looks like his wife, and I don't know who this actress is, Regina Hall. I don't know what else she's been in, but Yeah, it looks like they're like in suits. They're walking into like this building, like this government building of some kind. So maybe that's a flashback or something where they're I don't know, they're going in to bomb something or whatever. But yeah, like my friend Jason brought up an interesting point. He said, like, I don't really know if I'm going to watch a movie about radicals and really care for them, because like these homegrown terrorists, and that's totally valid. That's a very good point. But I also made the point that I think all of Thomas Pynchon's books, as well as Paul Thomas Anderson's movies, are about characters that you're not necessarily supposed to root for. That's what makes him, I think, such an interesting filmmaker, is that he takes these people that you would generally really despise in movies, who may indeed be the bad guys in standard movies, and he makes them the central characters, the people that you sort of are trying to penetrate and understand what makes them work and tick and all that. And I think like that's what makes him interesting. So there's all these he sent me a link tonight to like a report that Variety had put out, because I think Paul Thomas Anderson is being forced to test this movie with audiences, which is not something that he's done since, you know, Boogie Nights, when he was like a young filmmaker starting out in the industry. So he became very important after Boogie Nights. So they're like, you can make whatever movie you want. They gave him Final Cut, and they're like, you don't have to test it with audiences and all that. But you know, his career sort of hit a high peak in about 2007. When he made There Will Be Blood. You know, that movie came out and it was like hailed as a masterpiece. I definitely think it's like the best movie that was probably made of the last 25 years. There's been some other pretty good ones, but I often say that There Will Be Blood and No Country for Old Men, which came out like at the same exact time in the same year, that those two movies, and like Mulholland Drive, that Facebook movie, The Social Network, I think are like in the top 5 of like the best movies, right, of the last 25 years. That's just me, but yeah, when There Will Be Blood came out in 2007, that was definitely a high peak, and then ever since then, I think each of his movies have gotten significantly more niche and lower, audience participation and engagement, and just weirder, just more weird ever since then, right? It's like I think at this point in his career, he's had some success, and I think a lot of people turned out to his last movie, Licorice Pizza, which was a very accessible movie about this kid growing up in the 1970s in California. It was just a very lighthearted sort of romp, contrasting with his other movies, which were very dark character studies, but still didn't do a ton to get people engaged with it as much as he had done with his previous movies. And so I think what happened with One Battle After Another is that he goes from a very small movie, making very small movies, to suddenly he's being given $150 million to make the summer IMAX movie. So I think I had read somewhere that the only thing that got him the green light to make it was Leonardo DiCaprio, was just this big star who I suppose could come in and say, like, I want to work with this director. I've always wanted to work with this director. And so that's how he got the movie made. But I think now Warner Brothers is sort of making Anderson's jump through all these hoops, and just making sure that they're protecting their investment. And it seems to me like they are very nervous about this movie not really doing a whole lot of money, because the last time he, I think, made a movie with them, and I could be wrong about this, I don't know, but it was Inherent Vice, which was a box office failure. I think that movie only cost like $40 million to make or something like that. And so now he's making a movie, for much more than that. And yeah, test audiences have all basically said that it's really hard to relate or to care about the characters in this movie. That's what the Variety article said. So the test audiences are saying what has been true about this filmmaker since the very beginning of his career. He makes movies about people that's really hard to care about, right? You know, drug addicted porn stars, you know, oil tycoons, oligarchs, you know, it's, you know, Scientologists. He makes these movies that are hard to care about people, right? And this movie, it appears is no different, but you know, it's got DiCaprio in it, and just by extension of him being in it, he's a likable actor. You know, people like him, right? So it'll be interesting to see, but you know, I think just the audiences are saying that it's just weird. It's just a weird movie, which again is what he's always done. So I think, like, for people who are more or less in on the joke, who have seen this guy's movies before, and I think doubly so for people who are like Thomas Pynchon fans, I think it's going to work. It sounds to me like it's going to work, but it also sounds to me like just the people that they're inviting in to see this movie are not really the audience that it's made for. But $150 million, I think that the studio is being like, it better be made for everybody. I think that's what they're saying. So, you know. I just got a text on Signal. No, I'm just joking. I don't know. I was looking at that. I don't really know much about the stock market or anything, but you know, every once in a while when a company's in the news for bad reasons, I do look up the stock price. I was interested in seeing what the stock of Signal was up to, you know, this week. So let me look at it. Signal Inc. I think it's like called Signal Inc. stock. Okay. So yeah, as you know, everybody this week found out. This is why I was interested in what the stock was doing. Everybody this week found out about this very little known text messaging app called Signal, which was used by the entire Department of Defense apparently to figure out who they were going to bomb this week and what time. Who was going to bring the chips and the dip to watch it happen, I guess. It's at 47 cents, but it's up like 6.44% today. So it's like, that is wild, man. I mean, what are like text messaging apps generally valued at? You know, like what is like Slack, for instance, you know? I joined this, like for work one time, I had to create a Slack account and I didn't understand it. I was like, what in the world is Slack? I still don't get it. I don't understand what Slack is, but it's an app that you can message people with. And is it still around? Does Slack still exist? Yeah, Slack is at like $45. So it's like $45 for a text messaging app is what that's trading at right now. And Signal, you know, this app that made the news this week because I think Pete Hegseth, who's the Secretary of Defense now, I think he was an anchor on Fox News, and now he's the Secretary of Defense under Donald Trump, right? Pete Hegseth. Yeah, Secretary of Defense. Yeah, he accidentally texted a journalist, sent him an invite to the war planning committee, and they were going to like drop bombs, make an attack on Yemen, and they invited this journalist completely by accident into the group message, and yeah, they were using Signal Advance. Like this text messaging app that apparently is used mostly for sexting. by teenagers. So that's what people are saying it's mainly used for. And but I'm astonished that they would the fact that like it has such a low stock price even before all this happened is like, it shows you it's like nobody. I think this is like so far on the radar. This is sort of like if you ask Pete Hegseth, like what podcast are you listening to right now, and he's like, oh, I'm listening to this great show, this guy from Alabama named The Midnight Citizen. I listen to this show like all the time. It's kind of a stupid name. He probably needs to change the branding, but it's a great show. This would be like that. He's using the Midnight Citizen of text messaging apps to talk about war plans. And I don't know, maybe the thinking was the fact that it's such a little known text messaging app, they would never ever think about the idea that they could possibly be hacked or whatever. Like nobody would like hack something that was so under the radar to the point where it wasn't even on it anymore. I don't know, but yeah, it's like I can't wrap my brain around that. I don't think anybody can. I mean, obviously it was great for the news this week, great for comedians, great for people who are just really trying to make this administration, oh my God, look so stupid. I mean, it's really a very easy job to do, but I don't want to get into that. I did get into that, by the way. That's my article on Substack this week that I published. If you want to read it, definitely go and check it out. It's about the Trump administration just completely deleting the Department of Education, right? Like it's just a file on their hard drive. They're just getting rid of it without really thinking about what's in it. And just them running this entire country, managing this entire country the same exact way they used to shoot porn in the 1980s, just like with videotape, just like shoot and figure it out later. I think that's what they're doing. It's definitely what happened with the Department of Education, but I was concerned mainly about student loans. And so you can go and check that out because that's what it's all about. And it took me about 2 weeks to write or so because the news kept changing every single day. It just does. It's like when I published this article the other day, about a half a dozen things have changed that I think still make the article relevant. But some things have changed that, make some of it in there not necessarily relevant. But anyway, so yeah, I was just trying to figure out, as I think the whole world was this week, like why they would use, like, why didn't you use WhatsApp? Why didn't you use Slack? You could have just used Tinder or something. I don't know if you were going to go the sext messaging way or something, but my theory, and I don't know if anybody has come up with theories of their own as to why they would have used this particular app. But my thinking is that earlier this week, I heard this interview with this news pundit, and Don Lemon, this news pundit. I think he's on CNN or used to be, but he's gay, and he was saying that like during the Republican National Convention every year, Grindr shuts down, like it crashes at the Republican National Convention because of all these like closeted gay Republicans, like getting together in one room and having alcohol, and the hormones are flying, and so they're all hooking up with each other, and they end up crashing the app, right? And so this is what I was thinking, is that like it's just apparently there's this big problem with like closeting your homosexuality if you're and the whole Trump administration is basically one big long Republican National Convention that's going to last 4 years, right? Because obviously his whole secretary is staffed with Trump loyalists and these conservative Republicans, as well as the legislative branch and the Supreme Court. And so yeah, it's just like they didn't even have to go home this year. They just kept that convention going. So what I'm thinking basically happened is that somebody in the Pentagon working directly under Pete Hegseth, they were in a meeting and they were trying to figure out like how we can all stay in touch. And somebody there had probably just like had signal on their phone because they were using to sext a teenager, most likely. And they just said like, hey, I've got this great app. it's pretty discreet, right? I think that's my theory for most likely what happened, is that just somebody within the Pentagon, had this app for very nefarious reasons, and just suggested it was like the first thing. It could have been WhatsApp or Slack or something like that, but this is just what they happen to have, and on them, and they just kind of suggested that. And yeah, I think that's most likely probably what happened there. That's my guess. So should I get into this? I don't know. I'm not a stock market genius. But yeah, as I was saying this week, that the company didn't do anything wrong, and everybody knows about it now because of an unfortunate incident that happened in the world this week. I think we could call that like the Zoom bump. Nobody really used Zoom until the pandemic hit, and then everybody... the stock price went up. So I don't know. I mean, the thing is like this thing was valued at nothing on Monday, and now it's, I've been tracking it all week long, and it's been going up nonstop. I mean, very slowly, like it's at 47 cents now. Yesterday it was like at 45 cents, but right. So it's gone up a little bit, but I don't know. I'm not a stock market person. I don't know. It's like, maybe it should have gone up a lot more by now, but so maybe I should just take that money and put it into Tesla or something. I don't know. Maybe. All right. So I just want to thank you so much for joining me here tonight on the Midnight Citizen Show. If you have any suggestions for what I should change the name of the show to, maybe I should make it like Facebook. Drop the. Just make it Midnight Citizen. I don't know. Maybe I should do that. You can check me out over at mikesbonfire.substack.com. That's where I post the podcast every week. I also post it over at youtube.com/the_Midnight Citizen Podcast. I'm also over there at the Overnightscape Underground at onsug, ONSUG.com. And yeah, check out the article that I wrote this week. Some people have, and I have a little thing up there. I've never ever done this before, but since I did work on it for 2 weeks, and I worked on it throughout the weekend and had to miss some work in order to do it, to finish it in a time that it would still be relevant. Because that's the thing about writing. That's why it's like I never like to write anything at all about the news, and I don't like to write anything about politics. I just don't want to be that guy who's just obsessed with politics. But what happened with the Department of Education really got under my skin. The weird thing is, I think that like maybe we do not need a federal Department of Education. But I get into it in the article. I think it could do some good things. We just have to do it strategically and smart in a way that may take a few years to implement. And I know that that's like not really like in the style of the administration, the world that we're living in right now, but I don't know. Anyway, but yeah, go and check it out and read it. I tried to make it, at least, even though it's political and all that, it's at least I think a little bit fun to read. So check it out over there at the Substack, and I'll post a link to it in the show notes as well. And yeah, that's all I got. Until next week, thank you so much for joining me. Keep your eyes open.